You know, ever since that podcast, subhanAllah, those of us who are involved in da'wah, like myself specifically, I'll talk from my own experience, the amount of comments I get from Christians, from people who are against Islam and they want to sow seeds of doubts in the minds of Muslims, over and over and over again, they use speech and quotes from Yasir Qadhi, from Muhammad Hijab's podcast, to try and do that. It's like every single day on social media.
Listen, I have a condition, like I said, everything I say is going to be factual.
And when I found the Quran was clearly the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, clearly it has been preserved, clearly, no doubt about it.
No doubt.
That has been like the main talking point when I give da'wah to people,
the
to
main
Christians
talking point
specifically. So for that podcast to put a question mark on that for people, I mean, the damage it caused, subhanAllah, it's beyond words. You know, if you can't internalize and understand how horrible of a thing that happened, then I can't explain it to you.
Every single student of knowledge knows, who studies ulum al-Quran, that the most difficult topics are ahruf and qira'at. And the concept of ahruf and the reality of ahruf and the relationship of the Uthmanic Mus'haf with the ahruf and the preservation of the ahruf. Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 7? And the relationship of the qira'at to the ahruf. This is a topic that when you're the beginning student of knowledge, you're like, what is all of this going on here? When you go a little bit more, you learn to simply memorize what your teachers say and regurgitate it out. And you don't fully comprehend.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
When you do a deep dive is when things get very, very awkward and difficult. And this isn't new. This is from the time of the Sahaba. And this is not a joke, brothers and sisters. The issue of ahruf and qira'at caused confusion to somebody whom the Prophet ﷺ said, if you want to listen to the Quran directly, listen to Ubay. The crises that happened to me at Yale, my first year at Yale. It wasn't a crisis of faith, by the way, so I was very clear about this. It was a crisis of my understanding of knowledge. It was a crisis of what my teachers taught me.
When my teachers at Medina found out I'm going to Yale, they expressed their concerns to me. You're going to go there, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Many of them. And of course, I realized this is the way forward for me personally. But honestly, it was not easy because I jumped into the deep end and I did Islamic studies and early Islamic studies. And when you do that type of stuff, your brain really is scrambled completely. And the type of talk you just heard me give, I would never have given it in the Medina phase. It's not going to come because what the Western education does is it historicizes, contextualizes. It forces you to rethink. You know, Medina, Azhar, Malaysia, Islamabad will build a building for you. When you go to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, they will deconstruct the entire building, throw it all the way back down. It's going to be all blocks, back to Lego blocks. Then you have to figure out how am I going to reconstruct it myself. They're not even going to do it for you. Right? This is the reality of the Western education, that you are forced to think. And you realize that that building I inherited from Azhar or Medina is not a building that Allah revealed. It's a building that is constructed over centuries. And then and so what has happened, and I've seen this myself, many, not Medina or Azhar graduates, but many practicing Muslims have gone into these programs and come out either agnostic or preaching a version of Islam that I find very unpalatable. If you understand what I'm saying. Okay. Why is it? They didn't go in wanting to become like this. But they felt they have enough tools to be able to deal with the shubuhat, and they didn't. And I will tell you firsthand, if you are not fortified enough, you will come out in a manner that I think you're not going to benefit the ummah, you're probably going to harm it more than benefit it. Okay? This is my honest analysis.
Traditional understandings of ahruf and qira'at cannot answer some of these pressing questions that are now being poked by our people outside of, by our academics, by their academics outside of the faith tradition. You see, in a Muslim environment, there's always some respect that we have for the Quran. We should. In a Muslim environment, we'll press a little bit and then we'll say, okay, khalas, sami'na wa ata'na. And that's great, alhamdulillah. When you go to academia, they don't have that red line. And they're going to just, the famous story of the emperor with no clothes. They're going to just point out, no, that doesn't make any sense. Well, that's not true, and this and that. And they'll bring issues, which I'm not going to mention explicitly, that you know are true because they're in your own books. They're not inventing anything new. And it's very clear to you and to every single very advanced student and specialist that the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what I'm going to say. The standard narrative does not answer some very pressing questions. These are now well known within the Western Academy, that they're bringing forth issues. Their level of now knowledge is leaps and bounds above what it used to be, 100 years ago. And by and large, our ulama in the Eastern world are not aware, by and large, of what's going on in the Western side of things, and they're not answering those questions in a manner that it needs to be answered. And this is something all of us that are in academia fully acknowledge. This is not something you discuss amongst the masses, ya akhi. It's not wise. You don't understand qira'at, let it be.
If someone gave you a Quran which is empty in terms of there's nothing on it, and gave you a pen, obviously you have the Quran, but the question is, would what you write in that mushaf correspond with anything that we have in terms of the riwayat and the qira'at?
Who's going to bring a new Quran? A'udhu billah. We're going to have the Quran there, but which qira'ah will it be in? It'll be probably a mixture, right? It's not going to be necessarily... Fine. Yeah, okay, so let's leave it at that then. It's not going to be the exact Hafs and Asim bi riwayati fulan or...
Say what?
But which qira'ah will it be in? It'll be probably a mixture, right? It's not going to be the exact Hafs and Asim bi riwayati fulan.
To be clear, if you write down, it might not be a standard Hafs and Asim.
Exactly, yes.
But what you write down will be...
You cannot escape anymore. You're finished. A'udhu billah.
Imam al-Dhahabi says a very famous phrase in his, I think it was Amr ibn Ubayd, the Mu'tazili or something, that Allah loves the ignorant worshipper more than the pseudo-intellectual philosopher. The ignorant worshipper, he didn't even think too much. He lived his life according with what he thought was Islam.
You're out of a job, boy. You're out of a job, boy. You're out of a job, boy.